Hello, I am Teresa Ferguson. I'm the Executive Director of Austin Up. Austin Up is a nonprofit. We were formed in 2014 as a result of the Mayor's Task Force on Aging. This group recognized tenacious. The numbers indicated that Austin had the fastest growing population of older adults in the country. And of course, that surprised everyone because Austin is such a college town. And so this task force was created, and they recognized that great things were going on in the community, in the university level and nonprofits and businesses, but there was no one entity to kind of tie it all together. And so that's where Austin Up got its start. But employment for those older than 50 or 50 plus quickly became a huge issue because many of us, or all of us, many of us are enjoying working longer. We want to work longer. We're healthier. And so the word retirement may not have as much meaning as it once did. So that is something that we've been doing for 2 years. We host 50 plus job fairs, and then we host, in COVID days, these presentations, kind of giving skills or letting you brush up your skills on the job search, because a lot of people who are in the workplace maybe have been in the workplace for 20 years or so, and now they find themselves looking for a job. Maybe they want to do something totally different. And so this kind of gives you the tools you need to be competitive in your job search. So we're very excited to present these presentations. I want to, speaking of 50 plus job fairs, I want to give a plug to a 50 plus job fair that's coming up next Tuesday. And this is Workforce Solutions Capital Area. This is their first 50 plus job fair. And they have the technology to do it really well, where I think, and Miles, you can help me here, the participant enters or logs onto the system, and then you can go into rooms and visit with the employers. Mm-hmm. So it is a kind of using technology to have that one-on-one feel that you get during a job fair where you're talking over a table to someone. So I think it's really helpful.
And to echo that too, these are a glowing opportunity because you have an employer that's sitting there pretty much all day waiting to ask questions. And believe me, they are eager to answer your questions. They are really, really happy to engage with you. So by all means, definitely do it. It's super easy to do. And even if you don't find a fit for a particular employer that's there, it's very quick and easy to kind of browse through the list and find all the different ones. But it also gives you a really good opportunity to discover some other local employers that you've never heard of before that are actually actively hiring right now.
That's great. Thank you, Miles. And so I will post in the chat the URL for Workforce Solutions Capital Area. And you can find them. I think it's on the homepage. You go to events, and then you'll see on January 19th, the 50 plus job fair. It's happening from noon to 4 p.m. So I'll post that link in the chat. But right now, I'm very excited to introduce Miles Wallace. He works in recruiting and business development at Peak Performers. And Peak Performers is one of our job partners in this effort that we do in the community. They're a nonprofit staffing firm in Austin that recruits for contract, temporary, temp to hire, and direct hire positions in the state of Texas and other local government agencies. So Miles has brought a couple of members of his team. So Miles, take it away. Tell us who you brought and take it away. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having us. We are really, really excited to be here. I'm Miles. I'm from Peak Performers. You'll see me out there in the community, but really I want to introduce actually Laura and Eric right here. These are the heavy lifters within our organization. These are the folks that are in the trenches, actually pairing up job seekers with the perfect job every single time. And what they do, I cannot express enough how valuable it is. Peak Performers is a nonprofit that was started 26 years ago. And we specifically partner with government agencies. And as our nonprofit mission, what we do is we seek to employ professionals and particularly professionals with disabilities. So just so you kind of have a little more context there, A disability could be something visible and obvious about a person, such as like being in a wheelchair or being blind, or it could be an individual with an invisible disability, as we tend to call it, such as ADHD or dyslexia or PTSD or sleep apnea. There's a whole host of various different kind of conditions. But if you ever have any questions about that, I always like to set the expectations to know that almost no other employer is going to ask about that right out of the gate, but we do. Just kind of keep that in mind, and just kind of know exactly what a disability is. But we like to take kind of the counterintuitive approach that we focus on what the ability is of a person as opposed to the disability. We really like to put that first and foremost because we know that, hey, just because you have depression has no bearing on your ability to be a brilliant accountant or a brilliant financial analyst. Having said that, that's kind of like a quick plug for peak performers. I just want to let everybody know that we are hiring right now. We have over 50 different open positions. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Laura and Eric, but I believe we have over 50 different open positions and 12 unique titles specifically that we're recruiting for. And some of the different hot jobs. Actually, what are you recruiting for right now, guys?
That is correct. We have a lot going on right now. Let's see, administrative assistant or just admin support. We are hiring for clerks. We are hiring provider enrollment specialists. So that having really, I guess, honing in on call center experience, as well as, some sort of healthcare, if you will. This is really directed to the COVID-19 situation that we're all, a part of. And this is helping people and directing people, giving more information, education on what is out there. So that is a really big, important position that we're hiring for, and we've been hiring for it for weeks. I know Eric has been helping on that one. And of course, we've got much more job specific roles, accountants, auditors, loan specialists, loan closers, student loan collectors. Anything else you can think of, Eric?
Yeah, and that's on the OP side. We have a lot. And then we also have another department that Peak Performers likes to help out with, and that's the IT department. And I'm part of that department as well. And so with the IT, we are looking for senior full stack developers. We're looking for a business analyst. We're looking for a project manager. And we're also looking for a technical writer. So we have some jobs on each side, the OP and the IT side.
We also are looking for cybersecurity specialists as well, too. So those are actually direct hire positions. So needless to say, we got a lot of different positions, and we're happy to take a look at your resume. Everything starts by going to peakperformers.org. From there, our recruiters are going to engage with you based off of whether your skill sets are a match with the job that we currently have open or a job that we perceive that we'll have open in the very near future. So again, peakperformers.org, there will be a link on the slideshow. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. By the way, I want to set the expectation right here that, again, don't be afraid to ask questions during the course of this presentation. Don't feel free to kind of jump in here. I really want this to be engaging for y'all. I really want this to feel like something that you get a lot out of and that you're able to kind of verbalize with. And we're going to have this kind of structured in a bit of a conversation setting where what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be presenting 10 tips, if you will, that I like to give older job seeking professionals. And then Laura and Eric are going to jump in there and tell me all the things that I got wrong. They're going to let me know, hey, Miles, that absolutely not, or no, that's I guess that's at least half right. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, we already talked about who Peak Performers is, so let's go ahead and dive in with the number one question that I get from more experienced job seekers pretty consistently right here. Are you overqualified? My personal advice to people that are overqualified but are seeking a role that might be lower in position or stature than their previous roles that they've had is be realistic about your experience level and the kinds of jobs that you want. And if you are seeking a lower ranked role, make sure that there's a really, really good and well explained reason that you're doing that, and make sure that you communicate that really effectively to the recruiting team and the HR team so that they know. What are y'all's takes on that? Lauren, Eric, what do y'all
I
think?
definitely, excuse me, I was trying to figure out where that unmute button was on this new. I'm sorry, guys, but yes, I totally agree with you, Miles. You hit the nail on the head with that. When we are all faced at a time where we have to go out and we have to get some work. We have to, and we may be at a time where you may be just putting out anything, just sending them out anywhere. And I would just be a little bit more strategic, like Miles was saying. Even though you may be hungry for some work, be a little strategic with your search, and make sure it's still geared to your skill set. So if it's something that's a little lower, maybe it's something that you've done previous that you can touch bases to in the past and say, yeah, I'm a senior business analyst now, but before that, I was over business processes and development and things of that nature. So you can touch bases to where you are at now, but where you came from. And I think that would really tie the knot there. Miles.
Laura, what do you get when you get a candidate that's very obviously overqualified for a position? How do you handle that?
Great question. So overqualification doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to look at your resume. It just means that we may hold off and put you in a different, area, if you will. And we know that more than likely we're going to have a job that's going to come up, or we're going to talk to you about a job that's going to be coming up. We'll always touch base more than likely if your skill set is a match or overly, like you said, overqualified. But that being said, it's always apply, just apply. We're really looking for keywords, especially key skill sets, pardon me. That is definitely going to put you into a pile of the right people, specifically for that job. And by the way, Miles, I think you're sharing your email with us, not.
Am I really? Okay. Am I getting any?
Yeah, the slides show.
Am I getting any good emails coming in right now?
I was like, this is a lot going on here.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I was like,
I'm like, I can't.
Am I looking at the right thing? Yeah.
That's like one of those situations where, okay, can you see it now, or is it?
It's still the email, right?
It's still the email.
I still see the email.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
You have the file open, right?
There we go. Okay. Perfect. Sorry, I'm used to Google Meet, and so that's the platform that I usually roll in.
That's great. Now we can see.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that. That's kind of like, when you walk around and like you don't realize that your fly's down like all day and stuff like that, and like you get through the entire day, and then all of a sudden people are like, hey, did you, or even worse, you get all the way home and you realize it, and you're like, how long's that been like that? So
food in
thank
your
you.
teeth, something like that. Yeah.
All right. My second tip that I like to throw out there is I like to recommend that job seekers not only use Indeed and ZipRecruiter and some of these large job boards, because what you have to realize is that by the time that jobs get posted to these large job boards, there's going to be a lot of people competing for them. And so it's a numbers game, really. And you're going up against like maybe 10, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 people for one single role. So what I like to recommend to people to do is that you actually go onto these job sites, find the kinds of organizations you'd like to look at, and then bookmark their individual job sites and apply directly when possible. What's y'all's take on that?
That makes total sense to me. I like that idea as well. I think that would, to touch bases to what you said, Miles, everybody is going on the Indeeds and the link in the ZipRecruiters for those jobs, those same jobs. So to set yourself aside from those thousands that are on that same job board, go directly to that site and leave a message with your email. Yeah, I mean with your resume, you know what I mean? And set yourself away from everyone else that's just going on the Indeeds and the ZipRecruiters. I agree.
I would also suggest too that you start looking at LinkedIn profiles and see who the recruiter is, or see who the hiring manager is. More than likely, the recruiter, and send them an email specifically. Oh, I just decided to apply to this job. Take a look at my resume. It should be in your system. I would really love to speak with you.
To touch bases on this number
really good.
two. I'm sorry, Miles. To touch bases on this number two, I have a more so question that maybe could benefit them as well. What would you suggest when ZipRecruiters and the Indeeds have those one-click button and you can apply to 50 jobs at one time, whether they are in your wheelhouse or not, right? What would you suggest to our attendees with that little button that you can click with that?
Yeah, I recommend. I take the approach that, especially if you are a qualified professional and your particular skill sets are going to really only apply for a handful of positions or a specific number of positions, that you really be careful and strategic about how you're doing it. While it may not seem that it would hurt to, let's say you're an experienced project manager and you click apply on administrative assistant level 3, it may not seem that it hurts you, but at the same time, if a company is getting spammed with your applications over and over again, it dilutes the power of your resume. So that's my own personal take on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I add something to that also? ZipRecruiter is awesome and Indeed, but I will tell you, as candidates, it has a tendency to reformat your resume. So that being said, it may not look the same as, your resume. So whenever you have recruiters calling or emailing you or texting you regarding, can I have your email? Can we touch base? Don't be surprised if that happens. They have that tendency, and we may ask you, for your resume all over again because of the way that they reformat it.
Yeah, to add to that, we don't even see what your email is. It actually codes it as a specific Indeed email when we get it on our side. So yeah, very good call out. Number 3, the largest companies and brand names tend to attract the most applicants. When looking for work, I like to recommend that you consider those smaller, more local competitors and apply to those organizations as well. Again, a lot of this stuff when it comes to job seeking is a numbers game. And if you are applying for Apple, I guarantee that you're going to be going up against thousands or tens of thousands of applicants for these roles. Whereas I guarantee that if you were to apply to say, for example, WP Engine here in Austin, they're getting significantly less resumes than Apple is.
Well, Miles, to that, what about the quality of work and the pay as a comparison? So yes, I know about the bigger things of Apple and the littler, but people may be going to Apple because for the same job, is Apple paying a lot more than a local company would pay?
I don't know. And I guess we'll have to kind of see with, especially with Tesla moving into town as well too.
Right.
We'll kind of see what they look like. And it's interesting because I typically see that there may be like perhaps a higher turnover at these larger organizations, and that's why there might also be less openings that are in them. So a lot of times there might just be a different strategy. Yes, there's different budgets that's available for hiring people on, but they may also take a different approach to actually retaining talent. Whereas if you're working for some of these larger organizations, it might be a little bit easier to just kind of move from various different job to job. That's not always the case, but that can be the case sometimes.
Good call out.
Here's one. Are you looking for work? Who knows about it? Have you called all of your former colleagues? Well, maybe not all, but the ones that you like, the ones that you had good connection with. Have you called your cousin? Have you called? Does your mom know? It's really important, and I find that myself, I tend to think that everybody kind of knows what I'm thinking, and everybody pays attention to my LinkedIn posts and my Facebook posts or things like that. But the reality of it is that unless you specifically tell people, a lot of them aren't going to know. But this gives you a really good opportunity to actually connect with people and ask them, hey, who do you know that's hiring?
Agreed. I mean, that's how I got my first recruiting job. I just never let up. I told one of my friends, and he lived in Atlanta actually. And the company that I worked for previously is originally from Atlanta. And I just kept on pestering him whenever he would come home, for just coming home to see his parents. And, during the holidays, I'm like, hey, do you know anybody that's hiring? Do you know anybody that's hiring? And one day he actually called me, and I was already living in Austin. He's like, I have a job for you. And so it ended up working out. It was amazing. So just, be annoying, but not too annoying to certain people. Just be tenacious, I should say.
And I would add too that so much of the jobs that you find, especially the really good jobs, are going to be the ones that you find through those personal connections with people. It can be really tempting to conduct your entire job search by scrolling Indeed and scrolling LinkedIn, but really you kind of have to build those personal connections and network with people. Okay, let's talk about ageism. Who wants to talk about ageism, right? My general advice and what I like to give to people that are concerned about ageism and the perception of ageism is I usually recommend that you leave off dates further than 15 years back. If you have more experience than that, you can oftentimes include it and just like simply list the jobs that the other job titles that you've had if you want to. And also, I recommend that you leave off dates on education. And then here's the biggest one is seek to have a conversation with people. The vast majority of the time, I don't feel that employers are explicitly trying to discriminate against people that might be older. A lot of times, maybe they do have reservations, but perhaps what you can do is seek to kind of have that conversation with them in the course of the interview and just wow them and impress them and overcome any kind of unconscious or conscious biases that they may have. What do y'all think?
I definitely agree, Miles. I would say just in my experience, I know a lot of my previous candidates or interviewees that interview with me would call out their age automatically, on themselves on the call, and put themselves down for that age and like, well, I may be this, that, and that's not, you don't need to do that, If for me, and especially with IT jobs and things of that nature, where you would need years and years of experience, I don't feel like that's selling yourself short. 15 years back is perfect. Take the years off of your graduation. That's what we do anyway when we submit resumes to our clients for you. We take all that personal information off. So it would probably be best to do that, Miles. I really agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Both Eric and I have heard and seen both, on the OP, the office professional side. I've actually spoken to candidates who have had that experience, where they do get, unfortunately pushed aside. And I really try to relay the message that that's not what we're here for. I am really looking at skill set. I'm really looking at experience. I totally second that, leaving off dates, especially within education. Now, the relevancy of, your skill set and the job is going to make a huge difference. But that's why we have interviews, and that's why we, are looking at your skills within the resume itself. So yeah, we'll definitely touch base on that.
And the one other thing that I would add too is that seek to anticipate the challenges or objections that they may have to your resume and really take that head on. For example, and I really want to be careful here because I do not want to generalize about any group or people, but there may be a perception out there among younger coworkers that, hey, maybe they're not quite as good with technology and maybe we shouldn't hire them for that reason. Seek to address that head on. Talk about the technological skills that you have. Talk about how what you bring to the table, and really just seek to wow them and overcome those either conscious or unconscious objections that they may have. Teresa, I wanted to kind of say, does that also kind of track with what you generally hear people guide people towards?
Yes, definitely. And what Eric said about often we go into an interview and almost apologize for our age, and we need to stop doing that for sure. So owning our age and then talking about how our skills, individual skills can help solve your problem. That's the conversation to have. And it doesn't matter how many years or how many years you go back or anything. It's how I can solve your business problem.
That's
Right
head on,
on.
Teresa. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's great.
right on.
Here's one that I'd like to recommend. And I'm just curious, like, does anybody in the audience, how many versions of your resume do you have? And how much time do you actually spend customizing your resume before you submit it? Now, my personal recommendation is that job seekers spend a amount of time before they click the apply to the job, actually customizing their resume. And you can do this in a way that doesn't take you all day. I generally say, let's look at the objective summary along the top. Just rewrite those first 2 sentences or so, maybe update the skills boxes and move a couple things around just to make sure that it's a little bit more applicable. Because a lot of times what we can do is that we don't always understand how valuable this job is for you if you are submitting a blanket resume, and it just really makes it stand out a lot more. In addition to that, I would also say that it also performs better on the internal kind of evaluation system called an applicant tracking system. If you take the time to actually go through, highlight the job description, make sure that those words are in your resume, it's going to stand out both to the computers and to the people much better.
I second that. Yes, our applicant tracking system is what we live by. Some, candidates may not like it, but it really helps us as recruiters, when we are putting in that Boolean search, and that's just putting in keywords that the skill set that is necessary for that particular job to get done. Whether it's Microsoft Word and Excel, whether it's Adobe Illustrator, whether it's CAPS, whether it's USAS, we really do need to see that on there to confirm that you have it. Now it's going to make you stand out, and we're going to call you. That's how it works.
Eric, how many times do you feel like people actually customize and tailor their resume before they submit it to you?
That is a two-part question, because in office professional side, I think I get a more general, resume that anybody would just send, they're just sending resumes. As in the IT information technology side, I think I get a little bit more tailored resume, but it's still, it could still be better. Me as a recruiter, as a senior recruiter, I can definitely tell once I see a resume compared to a job description, if they actually read it and if that person was, actually a good fit for me to go ahead and call and dig into deeper. You can see that, especially after seeing resumes all day and working the same job all day, right? You can definitely tell that candidate that took a time out just to highlight a couple of things, as Miles said, or move a couple of words up to the front, or a couple of skill sets that you may have done a little bit years before, but if it's highlighted in this job, move it up to the front. If you can do that, you've done it for many years, you'll be surprised how that hits home to us as recruiters.
And this is really critical, especially if you're applying for larger companies. It's been estimated that recruiters at larger firms spend between 6 to 10 seconds looking at a single resume before they make the decision of like, I'm going to look at this further, or I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. And we all know what the maybe pile is. The maybe pile is maybe not. So you want to make sure that you really have that impact by doing that tailoring work. Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you. There's unfortunately times where we get, objective sentences that are completely opposite to the job that they'd applied for. Or if they send us a cover letter and it doesn't actually say our name, like our company name, or it's a totally different job, that doesn't make you look good. We're not going to put you in the maybe pile, and because you didn't pay close enough attention. And that's where we're really honing in. Are you being thoughtful, in what your actions are? Do you really want do you really want feedback? Do you really want us to call you? So, that being said, it's a two-way street. We want to see you get this job. And at the same time, we want, the right things to be on there.
Here's one that I like to throw out to everybody. I like to recommend that after you have an interview, you immediately grab a notepad and you start taking notes. In fact, it's not even a bad idea to have it handy so that when you're talking to the person and you get the interviewer's name and contact number to follow up with them, that you just immediately write that down. But here's why. This is your product pitch, if you will. This is where you're pitching yourself and you get a chance to get instant feedback and understand, okay, so what parts of my resume really seemed salient to them? And what were they most impressed by? But what were they most had most questions about? And can I fix that in the future to get more calls?
Yes, agreed. I love it when any of my candidates ask me questions during our interview, after our interview, where they really, what could I do better? Where do you see me in this position? Questions are always welcome, and I love helping people. That's what I'm here for. And any question, no question is too small or too great. And if I don't have the answer, I can definitely see where I can get it from. That's not a problem. But yeah.
And also, it'll be good to also just to note what you said, Miles, in the number 7 slide. I'm writing down their name and contact information. You never know when you might need to know who you spoke with in that interview. If you say you got a second interview, it would be nice to call out a name and say, yeah, I spoke with Sally Joe, on last week, and we had a great conversation. It just hits home when you can reference things that or just highlights that you've had on a previous conversation. It really makes us as interviewers know that, hey, he really paid attention.
So true.
And the interesting thing here is that I feel like it may not always be apparent to job seekers, but the reality of it is that all of us got into this particular business because we're people. We like talking to people. We like interacting with people. We like building connections. And sometimes I feel like sometimes people might be a little bit afraid to engage with me. People might be a little bit afraid to really kind of ask good questions, to send a good follow-up note afterwards, to send me an email. I would say get over that fear because the vast majority of us, most of the time, yeah, we're busy and yeah, we're talking to a lot of people. But the reality of it is we're all people. We like to talk to you.
Miles, what would you say, just to piggyback off of that, to the people that maybe don't want to ask those questions, but maybe don't know how to ask those questions?
Mhm.
How could we get those candidates engaged? They don't know how to or what to say, not just doesn't want to, but maybe don't know how.
I think that,
Is the
yeah.
right wording?
What's that?
The right wording, you mean, Eric?
Yes, you know what I mean? What to say, when to send a note, who to send it to, those type of things. Or if you were out at an interview or a job fair and or jobs and you're there and somebody stands up and walks to you, how would you highlight yourself, right? Miles, didn't they say that we had what did you say? A speech. What is that? A 3-second, I can't remember, at our job fair.
A pitch.
A pitch.
Elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So, if our candidates had an elevator pitch, when they go up and they speak to somebody and so what are you looking for? And you just have this pitch that and you just stand up confident and you just say it, and it just hits home a little bit better.
And I think that everybody is going to approach it differently too. Yeah, you're right, Eric. I like to describe it that it depends on what kind of dancer you are. So for example, I am a ballroom dancer, which means that I could not learn a choreographed set of motions to save my life. Believe me, I have tried. It is terrible. I look like I've never danced a day before in my life. But if I'm making it up as I go, I'm doing A-okay.
You're a freestyler?
What's that?
You're a freestyler?
I'm a freestyler, exactly. I'm all about the freestyle. But I
Yeah.
think that know yourself, right? Because I know that my sister on the opposite end, she is very meticulous. She's very exacting. And I know that she spent years doing ballet class, and for her, it was all about those routines and executing everything perfectly. So know yourself, know how you communicate best, know how you present the best, and make sure that you play to your strengths too. All right. Did you have an interview? Well, make sure that you followed up with a thank you note. Many applicants don't ever thank the people that they work with, and this small gesture can help you stand out from the crowd. I like to tell a story on this one right here that I once was at a job. I was at a job fair, and I go to a lot of those. And I would talk to about the 400th person that day. And she actually took the time to send me a thank you card in the mail. And here I am 2 years later, and I'm still talking about her. And you better believe that I looked as hard as I could for a job that would align with her skill sets, right? She stood out from the crowd. You don't have to do that and don't go to that length and whatnot. But what you can do is you really can call out the people that got you to this point in the process and thank them and just send them a quick note. In fact, not only does this is good for multiple different reasons. Not only does it allow you to re-engage with them, but it also allows you to kind of reaffirm that connection that you had to say, hey, I really enjoyed talking about X, Y, Z.
Yes, I totally agree. I have received cards and emails, and it's wonderful to hear from people that you've helped out. And just a quick, where's my resume? Have you looked at it? That really does help us. I received 2 calls earlier today, and I called them back, when I had a chance. There may not be a job right now specific for their skill, but it always helps to follow up just, after an interview, or even after you've even submitted a resume and we've talked to you. Sometimes we just do a quick check-in to see if you have a certain skill set, because your resume is intriguing to us. We will do that. See if you're available. Just ask you questions about, the particular role in general, if you feel, confident about it, whether you or not you like it. And the ultimate question, whether it's remote right now.
And Laura, how often would you say people do send you a thank you note after you interview them?
Gosh, maybe it's not as many. It's probably 3 out of 10.
Okay,
But I've received a card or two, when I had helped a person or two get to a job really fast, and that really just hit home. And she actually mailed it to my house, so I thought I was like, oh no, she came and dropped it off. I apologize. I'm not in my home right now.
That's awesome.
So Laura Miles, you just mentioned remote work. That's one of the questions we had in the chat. So are there jobs that are remote? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, there are. There are remote jobs. It is just a little bit more job specific, I will tell you, for the state in general. For the jobs that we're filling right now, we're noticing that probably more job specific roles are going to be remote. And let me kind of glance over here at my jobs. I know auditors, contract specialists, those types of roles. The roles that we're going to see that are on site are going to be the more supportive roles. Those are going to be, call center, administrative assistant, executive assistant. Because, they need people to help them. They need people who are going to be on site, who can do a lot of that work.
Now, on the other side of that, for the IT side, it's more so when I first started a year and a half ago, it was all on site. It was no remote. Now, since COVID, it's all been remote. And now since things are lessening up, IT is still remote usually. They're more so, I think they've gotten more better production off the remote employees. So they may stay, some of them are going to stay like that. So I hear, and then it's going to be a good mix in the IT department. So I understand like remote work is important to a lot of people in today's society. And I would say, please just keep looking out there because, we have them there. You just have to look. You definitely have to look.
And I think remote is especially important to us in our organization, just because we represent people with disabilities. And very oftentimes, one of the nice things about that is that if you do have a disability, you may be able to work from home, have all the accommodations that you need, have the ideal setup that you're going to need to be successful already built in right there. So I think that what makes me excited, if there's one positive thing to come out of COVID, it's the fact that we might see more remote opportunities that become available and really open up the job pool to more job seekers, regardless of their ability to physically come into the office or not.
Hey,
All right.
Miles.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think Beth has a question. I think her hand was up.
Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Nope.
Nope.
Put it down. Okay.
No, I was just saying, giving you a thumbs up because I believe exactly what you said about COVID has brought the idea that we can do remote work that we never thought we could do. So I think it's been a positive in that regard. So that was a thumbs up for you. On that.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it.
We totally agree.
All right. Were you turned down by a job? It stinks, right? It's terrible. I really hate being turned down for a job. But guess what? There are so many things going on in the background that you may be unaware of. So don't try not to take it personally. It's probably not anything specific against you. It's probably that either A, they found a candidate that truly was a better fit for the exact thing that they're looking for. And like our job descriptions are incredibly specific about what we're looking for, right? Not only that we're looking for something very, very specific, but in addition to that, what oftentimes happens in the background is that maybe they found somebody that got referred in, or maybe the position got canceled, or maybe they lost the funding for that particular position. You have no idea why you got turned down for the job. And 99% of the time, they're probably not going to tell you just due to various different kind of restrictions that they have in place. Send them a thank you note anyway. They saw something in you that got you to that point, and it probably wasn't their decision alone. And what you can do is you can really use that as an opportunity to build your network, because guess what? Let's say you were like 85% of the way there on that particular position. It's very likely that they're going to get another position that comes down later on that happens to be the perfect fit for you. Or maybe they're even going to kind of start crafting a role and say, hey, Jim, we talked to last week, he wasn't quite right for the systems analyst role, but I really liked him. Maybe we could fit him in sometime later on in the organization.
Yes, it's totally true. We definitely do that. I guess we can call them the hidden jobs, if you will. Those are jobs that you don't, which we brought up in the very beginning. The job board is the jobs that we need more people to fill, that are not in our database. So that being said, we may have people who may, fulfill that job completely, but they are, we're looking for them in our system, or they may be, from the actual hiring manager or somebody else within that system. So yes, it's true that happens a lot in everywhere, really. It happens everywhere. And it is great to just build that connection, regardless of you getting turned down for that specific position. Trust me, we are more than likely thinking of you for something else.
And Eric, you use tear sheets a lot. Could you explain kind of what that is exactly?
Yes. So what we both do as recruiters at Peak Performers is anytime we interview, anytime we have a rock star, anytime we even talk to anybody, screen, doesn't even have to be an interview. We save your information on an Excel sheet, I would say, in our internal system called a tear sheet. And it's very job specific. So if I talked to Miles about a tech support specialist, and they're looking for 4 people, and I interviewed 6 people, right? And he was a really, really good person that, I didn't end up going for. moving forward, I would add him to my tear sheet, and I would let him know that, hey, Miles, you didn't make this round, but I would definitely like to keep in contact with you. I like to share my information with you. Guys, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. It's a really, really, really good platform that you can sell yourself, that us as recruiters will go and look for people. And, even if I have your resume, I'll go and check your LinkedIn profile to compare notes, to see, you know what I mean? So just make sure your LinkedIn is just looks just as good as your resume, is what I would say.
Well, and I would add to that too, that it's really helpful for putting out stuff on LinkedIn and making it very clear whether you're available or not
Or
on
not.
LinkedIn. Because how often is it that you call somebody and it's like, oh, I already found a job? Like, how often does that happen to y'all?
That happened last week to me. I found somebody and I was going to reach out to him, and I decided I'm going to look on his LinkedIn profile. And sure enough, he'd been at a job for a month. So I didn't contact him.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep that up to date.
All right. And my number, I like to usually lead this with this as number 1, but it's my number 10 because I like to leave with a positive note in this particular case, is positivity is crucial when job hunting. No matter how many organizations tell you no, you only need one person to tell you yes. So really, like, no matter how many times you've been turned down on that interview, no matter how much it stinks, you really have to keep a positive face about it.
Yes, totally. We love hearing people that are happy, even when you're not employed. I know that's super hard. But, think of everything as a lesson. And even whenever you talk to any recruiter, there's always something to be gained, because each organization is different. Therefore, they're going to have a little something different to add to your knowledge as a candidate. So always think about it like that.
For sure.
Well,
So
that is
Miles,
all that I had. So Teresa, do you want to, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I did have a question. So now, are you conducting most of your interviews or your screening interviews face to face, like with Zoom or some other tool like that? Or do you do it by phone?
We do it by phone.
Oh, okay.
And
So what kind of tips do you have for those, screening calls or those online video interviews?
My first tip would be to make sure you review the job description very well before you get on the call with an interview. I wouldn't suggest to try to schedule multiple interviews for the same day, different jobs, and just jump from job to job without reviewing each of the job descriptions. Make sure you have a good understanding of what you're applying for, where it's at, what they're doing. And if you don't, make sure you have a couple of questions, as we had in one of the slides, right? Write down questions in the interview. Us as recruiters, I love questions. When we ask, before I finish, Lada, you can say, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions for me about peak performers? So we ask those questions, and more than likely about 80% of the time, everybody be like, no, I'm just, so
you're so right.
Really, if you have questions, ask them. That's what we ask the question for, to ask it. And then that'll only be better and beneficial for you at the end of that call, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Really look over that job description. If you have any questions about that particular department, about what we do on a daily basis, specifically what that job is going to entail, or even just about our job, or our office, peak performers, who we are. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And another thing is, be yourself. We want to know that you are confident and know what you're talking about, and want this job also. The wanting this job is going to be the difference too, and having that confidence in knowing that you can do it.
Another question I had, or that has come in, is that what is the state of the job search right now? Are companies hiring? Is the state hiring? What's the outlook for 2021?
Yes.
That's a really good question. I'm sorry, Laura. That's a really good
Yeah.
question. I would just say it's very job and industry specific, but for us as peak performers, yeah, we're definitely hiring, and I see it going for 2021. Hiring even more. I don't see it slowing down, especially for the state agencies. Even during this time, if they're not on site, they're hiring remote.
Mhm.
And we're helping out in so many ways, guys. We're helping out in so many ways. The agencies that we're hiring for, the jobs that we are needing specific candidates for are crucial, are very crucial, and they are making a difference here in what we're doing, and it's very inspiring for that. So for 2021, I think peak performers can only, get I think I don't even know how many jobs we have right now, but I know
There's a lot.
I know that I got an email from a couple of managers saying that a couple of them have like 8 more jobs coming, and that's just on Monday, so we have a lot of jobs, and we have a lot of hours to put in and find you guys, me, Lada, and we have some more recruiters coming for peak performers just to help find that right talent. So we're dedicated to make sure we're here to make sure, if that's not you all that get the job, to make sure that by the time we're done off that phone, where you're in a better place to get on the next call and land that job.
And even if you are not a fit for peak performers, like let's say, for example, you really don't fit into government, realize that the Austin area has been doing better than a lot of the rest of Texas, but also the rest of the United States. It oftentimes depends on kind of where you look. So what you're going to want to do is, like, I recommend that people go to Austin Chamber of Commerce and look to see what industries are hiring right now. For example, if you were trying to get a job in the hospitality industry, that's going to be that's going to be an uphill road for you, right? However, if you're seeking a job possibly in information technology, then you're going to have a lot more access to many more jobs. Also, if you are going into like logistics or something like that, there's going to be many more opportunities. So try to take a macro scale look at it, and even to let's say, for example, you work in theater or something. Try to ask yourself, what other skills do I have from that particular role that I can apply, and how can I remarket myself to other industries that are actively hiring right now?
That was another question we had, is how to repurpose yourself, how to repurpose a long career in accounting, but you want to do something different. Are there ways to do it in how you speak and how you interview, on the resume? Any tips there?
Yes, your resume. Definitely need to change up your resume. And of course, your verbiage whenever you're speaking, and really let us know as recruiters, that you would like to change, where you're at, and we can definitely help you. Just take some advice and be open to changing your resume. Sometimes it's a little hard, to kind of to put it all together, and make it to where people are going to take you seriously, especially when you're going from one type of position that you've been doing for years to another. But we can definitely try to help you do that. The resume does speak a lot more, especially to us, especially when we're putting in our searches. And, obviously change your LinkedIn also. That definitely helps. And network on LinkedIn. And use that network, just like Miles had brought up previously. I really want to change, my job. I want to become, do something different. So really start reaching out to those specific recruiters, specific people within your pipeline, and go from there.
And I
Yeah.
feel like, to add to that, I feel like we don't use cover letters quite so much at peak performers. It's a lot less common. So really what we advise people to do is take that objective summary and stick what you'd put in the cover letter right there. Hey, my name is blank and I'm seeking blank, kind of thing. Make it super abundant that, let's say I'm switching over from
Right.
a job in janitorial services and I want administrative, something that I can do working at a computer. Make sure that it's crystal clear what you're looking for, because otherwise we may not necessarily draw the dots and connect them.
And that's exactly, Miles, thank you for that. Teresa, that's exactly what I was going to bring up right before Miles said it. Really as recruiters, what we're going to see first is the resume, right? So you're going to really have to hit hard on that resume. Now, how can you change years and years and years of administration and then you want to go do, something else? It would definitely, the only way it's going to hit us as recruiters after we see 1,000 of the ones that are directly for administration, and then we get one that's not, it's that cover letter. So make sure, as to Miles was saying, that's a brilliant way to bridge the gap and transition and explain how and why you're wanting to transition into this new field.
Yeah.
That's great. Great answers. Are there any other questions from our attendees?
And you all can feel free to unmute yourself to ask the questions too. Don't feel like you have to type.
For sure.
Hi there.
Hello.
I just wanted to chime in and say that I've worked with peak performers twice, and I'm now a direct hire with the state of Texas. And you guys have been amazing for me. This was a complete career change. I was overqualified. I am older than the rest of the job market, it seems. But this changed everything for me. So I wanted to tune in today because I still always want to know what everybody wants. So, but I'm in a new job, and you guys are just amazing. So thank you so much, and I hope everyone will try to work with these guys because
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys.
We're happy.
I worked with Amy Jennings and Paula, and they have been at different times in my life, and wowzer, like they got stuff on my behalf, and it changed my life both times.
I love hearing
Awesome.
We love hearing that.
That's why we do what we do,
Thanks.
There's another question that came in from Eugene. How do military veterans with lots of various experience articulate it on a resume without going too long?
Usually what I like to recommend is that you start with a tool, I believe it's called Crosswalks, but that can help you start to translate some of that experience that you have in the military over to the civilian sector. And a lot of times it might just be a matter of kind of like asking people like, hey, that proprietary tool that I was using in the Air Force to do XYZ, what kind of thing was that in the civilian world? Like, what would I call that? Or is it actually like just a rebranded version of, say, for example, Outlook or whatever the case happens to be. So whatever you can do to translate all of that information, and also keep in mind too that peak performance works with a lot of veterans. About 10% of our workforce is a veteran. However, there are also other recruiting firms out there that specifically work with veterans and actually will help them transition into the civilian sector too.
That's great. Thank you, Miles. Well, it's about,
he needs to know about Crosswalk. He doesn't know what that is, Miles.
I will look it up. And if you wouldn't mind putting your contact information in the chat here, I will email it to you. It is basically a tool that helps you look up to see, I worked in this particular sector and I worked in this particular, with these, doing this kind of job title, and it kind of helps you translate all those skills into a civilian resume.
So it's an app?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a website. It's a website.
Oh, it's a whole website, okay.
Website. I think they're asking, do we recruit for any major hospital systems in Austin area? Also, does peak performers get employment prospects in South Austin, Buda, Kyle, San Marcos area? So we primarily deal with the actual state agencies within the Austin city limits area. But not to say that we don't help in Houston or Dallas or Fort Worth. We do. But we're looking at, the main buildings, the main hub. As far as hospital systems, no, it's primarily, just state agencies.
We're working on getting into that, but as of right now, we don't have too many customers in the hospital area. But we do work with a lot of other kind of tangentially related. For example, our second largest customer right now is Department of State Health Services, and they're dealing with COVID-19. So we definitely have a lot of customers we're working with that kind of have that medical aspect to them.
Well, it is 3:02 and we have reached the end of our hour. And Miles and Laura and Eric, thank you so much. This has been so helpful, very helpful. Thank you. And yeah, and again, if you are looking for a job, we wish you a lot of luck, good luck. And check the Austin Up website. We will have more job-related programs, job search-related programs. It's austinup.org. So feel free to check that out. But thank you very much for being here.
No problem. Thank you,
Everyone.
guys.
Thank you,
It
everybody.
was
Take
great
care.
talking to you guys. Have a good one. Good
Bye,
luck on
y'all.
your job searches.
Thank you.
Take care.